No cameras, no producers, no TLC lighting crew, just a cool, fluorescent downtown Flagstaff, Arizona, courtroom, where the tick of a wall clock echoed louder than any television theme. Christine was seated at the plaintiff's table, hands clasped around a manila envelope labeled Exhibit Q, her gaze distant but focused, like a person who'd recognize a storm on the horizon but wasn't about to go running toward it headfirst. To her right sat her lawyer, a vision of calmness but wound, as tight as a spring, waiting for the landmine under the judge's bench to blow. Kody sat across the aisle, frozen jaws clenched, tapping fingers drumming an imaginary beat on the oak table in front of him. But today, something about him looked less confident. Behind him, Robyn hunched forward, her eyebrows furrowed, eyes locked on a page of paper in her lap, as if trying to erase it with her eyes. Meri and Janelle hung in the gallery, exchanging glances that looked more like silent ciphers than curiosity. They were all there. They were all ready. But what they did not know, what no one outside Christine's envelope understood, was that today would be about money. Not exactly. Not about TLC contracts or assets in ICE or even Coyote Pass. This day was about a name that was not supposed to be listed on a property deed, a name the court would first encounter in association with Kody Brown. The judge fiddled with his glasses, reading over the amended docket as if confused. Mrs. Brown, you requested reopening questioning on an already closed item, Exhibit H, correct? Christine stood up, her voice stern. Yes, Your Honor. We just received new property documents that were registered in Mr. Brown's signature, and we think that the registration has the intent to defraud. A low murmur ran through the courtroom. Kody did not bat an eye, but Robyn's hands flexed in plain sight on the armrest of her chair. The judge nodded. Go on. Christine moved forward and passed the bailiff the envelope it held. 2 notarized papers dated only 9 months ago, appended to a Flagstaff property lot. The judge flipped them over cautiously. His eyebrows rose as he read the second signature line out loud. Spouse of co-owner, Nevaeh James. He paused. Who is Nevaeh James? There was silence. Christine answered in a brightness honed by deceit. His 5th wife, Your Honor. Or at least, the woman he presented as such to the county registrar. And with that, the courtroom didn't gasp. It didn't shriek, it cracked. The kind of group fracture that occurs only when an entire family sworn and weighed down by invoices realizes they've only been seeing the tip of an even larger lie. Meri sat up straighter. Janelle leaned in. Robyn, slightly ajar mouth, glared at Kody as if she didn't know him. Kody did not move, did not respond, but a flush of pink crept up his neck like guilt, attempting to break through the skin. The judge set the papers down deliberately and removed his glasses. Mr. Brown, he interrupted, voice taut, you'll have to explain why you co-signed a property sale on marital pretenses with a woman neither here nor listed in any legal marital document prior to this court. Kody finally spoke, voice softer, slower, rehearsed. It was an administrative error. She is a business acquaintance. It wasn't, Christine interrupted him, her voice scraping. 5 different times she signed. Wife on different documents, Your Honor, and we have sworn affidavits from the county office that confirm Kody knew her as such in person. Robyn shifted uncomfortably, her lips parting to protest, but nothing came out. The judge held one of the documents, looked over at Kody, and asked again, Is this your signature? Kody nodded stiffly. Yes, but then we're moving on, cut in the judge. Court will recess for 10 minutes while I review the new exhibits. Counsel, prepare your questions. And as the gavel came down and folks started to stand up, Robyn finally got on her feet, not to leave but to lean over and whisper something into Kody's ear. He didn't turn to her, he didn't say a word, because no words could erase a black ink signature alongside a woman the court had never seen. Until today, the courtroom returned from recess with a new atmosphere. A low, tight hum, like electricity before a storm. The judge had not yet spoken, but his eyes carried the weight of someone who'd just read documents he did not wish to have read. Christine returned to her chair, not smug, not triumphant, merely certain. A woman who had at last lost patience, not evidence. Kody did not meet her gaze, instead fixating on a speck of lint on the table, as if it were more significant than the legal maelstrom in the making surrounding him. Robyn sat tense, silent, arms crossed. So tightly it appeared as though she was trying to hold her body together by sheer will. And then, when the court had settled, the judge cleared his throat and began. This court has taken into consideration the property deed in question, the supporting affidavit of support filed by the registrar's office, and notarized witness statements. We have sufficient cause to go ahead with formal interrogation of Mr. Brown on his description of Miss Nevaeh James as a legal spouse. He turned to Kody. You will now, under oath, depict the nature of your relationship with Miss James and why spouses was being used. Kody's lawyer got up, looking shaken. Your Honor, we're arguing that this was a semantic mistake, a misinterpretation of the word in a business context. But the judge raised his hand. That would be an argument that could be made if it appeared once. It does not. It appears on 5 different documents. There was a joint ownership declaration and a marriage. Like cohabitation declaration. Now, Mr. Brown, stand up. Kody stood up slowly, shoulders squared but breathing ragged. She is not my wife, he finally said. We worked on some land acquisition together, and I used that language to simplify the paperwork. But the courtroom wasn't buying it, not Janelle, whose lips curled into a sharp frown, not Meri, whose eyebrows shot up with a clarity that read, You've used that excuse before. Not Christine, who remained motionless, but whose lawyer reached into a folder labeled March 2023 audio. The judge saw the label and nodded, proceed. And the courtroom speakers crackled on white noise. Then Kody's voice, clear, calm, but unfamiliar. It is easier if she signs as a spouse, a means of avoiding the zoning idiocy. I did the same with the others. This land is going to Nevaeh anyway. Robyn's head jerked to the side toward Kody. Christine didn't move. The judge pressed a button. The recording ceased. You did the same thing with the others, the judge asked. Would you care to explain? Kody blinked and parted his mouth, but said nothing. The courtroom was suspended. Christine stood now, silently, determined. Your Honor, I'd like to show a timeline of property records proving that Kody has used changes in marital status in an effort to utilize lower tax brackets and past titles without triggering family trust protocols. The judge arched an eyebrow. Do you have proof to support this? Christine nodded. Binder tab 7 labeled Wife 5. She moved out from behind the podium and placed the tabbed folder on the evidence cart. The judge opened it. Saw receipts, title transfers, screenshots of emails, even a wedding registry for a private ceremony at an upscale Airbnb just outside Sedona. And on top of one page in bold print, Congratulations, Kody and Nevaeh, bless your union. A room full of whispers, this time louder, less restrained. Meri looked at Janelle, and Janelle looked away. Robyn, she stood up to leave, not to discuss. She picked up her purse, mumbled something at Kody, who never looked up, and headed out the side door of the courtroom without a word. The judge cleared his throat. This no longer appears to be a misunderstanding. Kody's lawyer cut in, fighting. Your Honor, we object to the admittance of celebratory materials as legal evidence. But the judge had made up his mind. Then I'll have to ask it again, Mr. Brown. Is Miss James your wife, or was she presented to you as such, in an effort to deceive an assets-based property system connected with your family holdings? And now finally, Kody Brown was cornered. Not by Christine, not even by the binder, but by his own voice, his own signature, and a ceremony he swore never happened, but paid for with a family card. Back outside, cameras snapped as Robyn staggered down the courthouse steps, sunglasses half on, face pinched, breath shallow. She wasn't crying, not yet. But the tension around her seemed like a storm held back only by the threat of denial. Reporters shouted questions. Is she the 5th wife? Did you know, Robyn? Was the marriage legal? But Robyn did not respond. She did not have to. Her silence screamed louder than any megaphone inside. The courtroom was hushed, humming not with sound but incredulity. Janelle sat rigid, arms folded, lips pursed in that way, only when betrayal was no longer shocking and had begun to become expected. Meri stared into her lap, as she had during their family therapy sessions all those years before, when they had all acted like everything was all right. Christine, she was already ahead of us. The judge motioned for silence, and Christine's attorney approached. Your Honor, we have one further piece, just obtained. That links Mr. Brown's forgery of the property to a secondary LLC in Miss Nevaeh James' name. We believe that this LLC was used to conceal the transfer of collectively owned family money to private individuals in the guise of business expansion. The judge's head tilted forward. Put it in. The lawyer opened a red leather binder with a single sheet within. A loan application from Flagstaff Capital Bank. Paper had 2 signatures on it, Kody Brown and Nevaeh James, with spousal guarantee written red through. That wasn't what made the courtroom fall silent. Beneath that promise line was a footnote. Trust origin, Brown Family Coyote Holdings, established 2014. Christine had just confirmed that Kody and his supposed 5th wife used the Brown Family Trust to protect all the wives so they could buy land in their own names. Although the betrayal was no longer personal, it was legal, contractual, tracked. The judge looked at Kody. Mr. Brown, did you authorize this loan? Kody shook his head slowly. I never signed that. The smile of Christine's lawyer was weak. Well, then you won't mind the next one. Another envelope, another tape. This one, created just 6 weeks previous. Kody's voice once more. If we keep it in her name, it never goes back to the family trust. That is why the LLC is so wonderful. It is not personal. It is just strategy. The courtroom did not gasp this time. They groaned quietly in recognition, because this was not a mistake in judgment. It was a pattern, a template. Christine got up not to gloat, but to explain. Her voice measured, almost too measured. He transferred money for years without our awareness. Informed us the family was financially distressed while transferring funds through women we didn't even know existed. He used Robyn's name first, then my tax information, then Janelle's retirement fund. And now we see Nevaeh was up next. She paused to take a slow breath before finishing, but he made one mistake. When you lie to that many women, sooner or later, one of them saves the receipts. The judge did not flinch, not immediately. He leaned back, took long and low breaths, then looked down at the piling stack of evidence, now snowballing into a legal mountain before him. This court, he finally concluded, will order immediate asset freezing on any property that is linked to Brown Family Coyote Holdings. In addition, we will subpoena Miss Nevaeh James for sworn deposition regarding her role in this case. Kody's lawyer hastened to his feet, clearly flustered. We have reason to believe she is out of state, Your Honor. Then she will be extradited if it is necessary, the judge snapped. Because this is no longer just a family home dispute, it is a potential financial deception on the marital and corporate scale. Christine sat down, her expression unreadable. She did not smile. She did not blink. She merely clasped her hands together on the table and gazed forward. And in that moment, even Meri glared at her with something new. Something different. No pity, not envy. Respect. Because, for the very first time, the courtroom wasn't hearing a story of Kody's dishonesty. It was witnessing them coming apart at the seams in front of them. And Robyn, she remained out there. Quiet still, but deep in her mind she'd already been unsilenced, because the 5th wife had a name. And Christine, she had the proof. The courtroom had barely regained its balance, when a bailiff stepped forward, whispering into the ear of the judge, with an intonation that instantly changed the temperature of the room. The judge raised an eyebrow, waved to his clerk, and shortly thereafter a sealed manila envelope was sent on its way to the bench. He read it, carefully breaking the seal, and he began reading in silence. The room watched him, his expression shifting slowly from doubt to something else. Not anger, not surprising, something more cold. Disappointment. When he finally raised his head, his words were gentle but sharp. This court has been shown a notarized letter from Miss Nevaeh James. He paused, allowing that name to settle over the room again. This letter, mailed here from Nevada 2 days ago, explains her relationship with Mr. Brown, and I am now going to read part of it into the record. Kody shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Janelle sat forward. Christine sat quietly. She didn't have to, she knew what was going to happen. The judge coughed and began. I, Nevaeh James, do hereby declare that I entered into a spiritual and economic partnership with Mr. Kody Brown on the 12th of October 2022. I was told then that it would not be legally effective due to religious concerns, but that I would be a recognized wife within his family. I was instructed to sign property deeds on his behalf, as his wife to expedite a real estate investment, under the assurance that I would be protected by a private family trust. I know now that this was not the case, and I believe I was being used as a pawn to move money from other members of his family. The room grew quiet, not silent, but empty, like the air had been sucked out of something holy and rotten at the same time. The judge continued reading, I no longer wish to be associated with Mr. Brown in any manner, either marital or business. I have had legal representation and am willing to give testimony. When he was finished, he folded the letter and put it away like it had blistered his fingers. Well then, he said quietly, this court has its answer. Kody attempted to say something, but his attorney put a firm hand on his arm. Robyn had not come back, and Christine, finally, all day, allowed herself to breathe, not relief, but vindication. She scanned the room with her gaze. Janelle gazed as if she'd been punched in the stomach. Meri leaned in and mouthed something. I have no idea, but Christine did not blink. Her eyes remained locked on the man who had once stood before 4 women and promised solidarity. But now huddled alone, trembling behind lawyers and a veil of deception so expansive that it could not be avoided. Then Christine stood. Your Honor, we request freezing all properties purchased in Miss James' name, co-signed by Mr. Brown, forthwith for examination of the family trust. Granted, the judge replied, not missing a beat. And further, Christine continued, I'd like to request a forensic review of all Brown family accounts used in purchasing properties from 2016 through the date of today. Kody's lawyer sprang to his feet. Objection, overreaching, the court has no. Denied, the judge replied. We're well beyond excess, counselor. We're into damage control now. He glared at Christine. Do you have any additional evidence to present undefined? Christine nodded, undefined yes. Undefined but I'll reserve it until recess. The judge indicated the court in recess and slammed the gavel once no one moved. Because for the first time, it hadn't been Christine or Janelle, or even Meri who had broken the truth. Voidet had been the 5th wife, in her own hand, admitting the marriage, admitting the deception, and confirming what the other wives had long suspected. Kody Brown had never stopped expanding his kingdom. Voidet just stopped sharing it with them. Void in the court. Voidet wasn't just hearing it anymore. Voidet was building a case. The doors swung open at the time the court reconvened, and all eyes turned as Robyn returned. But this wasn't the Robyn who'd stood up for Kody on television or sat beside him to the left as the favorite wife in those TLC sit-downs. This Robyn was smaller, eyes sunken, face puckered in, hands shaking as she reclaimed her seat in the gallery. She didn't sit beside Kody. She didn't even look at him. Instead, she found a seat 2 rows behind him, next to a paralegal she didn't know, and stared straight ahead. Kody turned to glance at her, but she didn't move. That was when Christine stood up again, calm, measured, devastating. Your Honor, she began, I've submitted evidence over the last several months regarding financial deceit. I've provided transfers, tampered signatures, tapes, and now a letter from the 5th wife in person. But what I haven't provided is the whole picture. She stepped away from her table and grabbed a chunky white binder. This contains every financial anomaly I charted for the last decade. Every time Kody announced we were out of money, every time he said there was nothing left, every time we had to sacrifice so another could succeed. The courtroom remained quiet as she opened to a page with 2017 Christmas canceled. That year, he told us the family couldn't afford gifts for the children, told us we had to tighten the belt. But that same week, this receipt shows a $22,700 wire transfer to an interior designer for the woman we now know as Nevaeh James. She flipped the page. Back in 2019, he said therapy wasn't reimbursed, but Robyn's eldest child was reimbursed for a personal coach from a business account. And in 2021, when Janelle couldn't get dental insurance authorized for her son, $8,300 was sent to an of State Boutique in Nevaeh's name, and every dime was paid with family funds. The judge did not interrupt, because this was no longer just testimony. It was a reckoning, a spreadsheet, shaped sword. Kody inched in, voice low but clear. You are making way too big a deal, Christine. You are not the heroine in this, but I was trying to look out for all of us. Christine did not flinch. You were trying to save face, and when that broke, you substituted it with someone else, and called the rest of us obligations. The word hung there like ash. Obligations, legacy, liabilities. That old tape recording came back to haunt all of them in the room. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Brown, do you deny using the word wife to avoid legal scrutiny? Kody nodded. Yes, I never meant it legally. It was business. Christine responded quickly. Then why did she receive accommodation under the family trust? Why did you introduce her to the registrar as your spouse? What does your voice on tape mean? She is next in line. She broke off. You didn't just build a life with her. You built an erasure of all the people before her. The judge raised his hand for silence. Christine, give me your 10-year history. Formal forensic review of each fiscal year will be ordered by this court. Kody's lawyer tried again. Your Honor, this is becoming a vendetta, not a property dispute. No, the judge interrupted. This is about financial exploitation, misrepresentation under the law, and very possibly conspiracy to steal guarded marital funds. Meri stood up from the gallery at that time, not to remain, but to speak. Your Honor, may I have a word with the court? The judge furrowed an eyebrow. Are you ready to testify? Meri nodded. Yes, then proceed. Forward she came, heels clicking against the hardwood, voice soft but unyielding. I saw it happen, not all of it, but enough. He altered after Vegas, after Robyn, after money started moving without purpose. He told me that Christine was paranoid, that Janelle didn't receive business, that I was too emotional, but the fact is, he needed us quiet, not equal. She looked over at Christine. I should have defended myself sooner. Christine's eyes never welled up, but something behind them eased, and in that moment, it was clear. This was no longer Christine's war. The judge exhaled a deep breath, then spoke to Kody. Mr. Brown, due to the large documentary and testimonial record, this court will issue a criminal referral for abuse of trust property. Second, we are respectfully requesting federal oversight of Brown family Coyote holdings and any property your signature has been applied to since 2016. Kody's lawyer paled. You are bringing in federal auditors? Yes, the judge said, because this is now more than an international issue. This is institutional dishonesty. The court never heard from Robyn Brown, not formally. For years she had existed in the dual grayness of protector and enabler, the combative favorite, whose closeness to Kody always seemed to insulate her from genuine accountability. But as Christine's binder slammed the tail shut on years of secret spending and cover-ups, and Meri's raw testimony cut through the final veil of silence, all eyes turned to hers. It was Judge Halbrack who broke the tension. Mrs. Brown, he declared, his voice cutting the air like a gavel in its own right. Do you want to say something? You don't need to, but the court would like to hear from you. Robyn hesitated. Her hands clenched against each other, then nodded. Slowly, she got to her feet, brushed by Kody, reached out, ignored, and moved toward the bench. She spoke in a whisper, barely audible. I didn't know about Nevaeh until this week. A shocked murmur ran through the gallery. Janelle rolled her eyes. Christine crossed her arms, but Robyn continued. I knew something was wrong. I saw the money exchange. I asked questions. But Kody said it was for new development, that I was paranoid, that if I kept asking questions, that it would divide the harmony of the house. The judge raised his eyebrows. Did you ever sign any documents regarding the Coyote Pass Trust or the Nevada homes in Nevaeh's name? Robyn pressed her lips together. I signed documents, most of it. But I didn't read it word for word. I trusted him. Christine edged closer. You trusted him more than you trusted any of us. Robyn addressed her not in anger but lament. I know. The room fell silent with some weight, not for theatrics, but for something far worse, remorse. The judge put his glasses back on. "Thank you, Mrs. Brown. You can retire." But just as Robyn could leave, the bailiff returned with a new stack of documents. The clerk whispered wildly. The judge nodded and cleared his throat. Apparently, the court has just been presented with a signed affidavit by the state of Nevada claiming that Miss Nevaeh James properly recorded 2 parcels of land in the name of Kody S. Brown and spouse. Her spouse. This supports the allegation of marriage under state property law. Murmurs erupted. Christine looked at the ground, her head shaking. "She wasn't a rumor," Janelle said aloud. "She was real. He did it. He really did it." The judge raised a hand. "Order. As of today, this court is issuing a subpoena to Miss Nevaeh James to appear before this court within 14 days. Failure to comply will result in a bench warrant." The courtroom exploded once more, but this time in sheer disbelief. Nevaeh James, the 5th wife, the off-screen secret, was not a spirit anymore. She was now a material witness. Kody rose to his feet. "You can't do that. You can't bring her into this circus." The judge stood also. "Mr. Brown, sit down or be in contempt. This is your fault. You brought her into this when you signed her name and yours." Kody's rage turned to fear. She is not ready for this. She doesn't even know what she is walking into. Christine's voice from the other side of the room. "Neither did we, Kody. We were ambushed. Each of us. A decade later. And then came the coup d'etat. Also," the judge continued, "a notarized bank statement from Silver Ridge Credit Union proves that a joint account in the name of Kody Brown and Nevaeh James directed $186,000 into a shell LLC domiciled out of Arizona 2 weeks before Christine first brought her motion. That LLC is now under federal investigation." Kody's lawyer visibly slumped. "We would like to request a recess to discuss with our client." The judge shook his head. "No recess. You'll have an opportunity to consult after I finish freezing all affiliated business assets." Robyn sat back down slowly, putting head in hands. Kody remained standing, shoulders heaving, red-faced with betrayal and blame. But Christine, quietly seated, muttered something the cameras alone captured. "You built it on lies, Kody, and now it is all yours to bear." The courtroom had never been charged quite so. Weeks of building revelations, whispers made headlines, and headlines became subpoenas. Everyone in attendance knew the next appearance was not just a formality, it was seismic. Then, exactly at 9:01 a.m. on day 27 of the trial, double doors opened and in walked Nevaeh James. Cameras snapped outside the courthouse. Phones buzzed within, but Nevaeh walked defiantly. No hoodie, no attempt to hide. Instead, she wore a navy blue jacket, hair pulled back tightly, face inscrutable. Christine glared. Robyn froze. Kody, already pale, looking, grumbled something under his breath that no one quite heard. Nevaeh sat in the witness chair, looked directly into the judge's eyes, and asserted herself. "I am ready to testify." The room didn't explode, it breathed. It hardened, because for the first time ever, the elusive 5th wife had become concrete, and she was ready to share what she knew. The judge waved his hand. "You've been subpoenaed in connection with financial reports, property reports, and marital statements. Do you know the penalties for perjury?" "I do," she replied. "And I'll be honest." Christine glared at her with a fire only years of betrayal could produce. Robyn blinked rapidly, but remained silent. Kody refused to glance up. The court attorney began. "Miss James, were you ever legally married to Kody Brown?" Nevaeh paused for a moment. "Not spiritually, but yes. Legally speaking, we were common law spouses in the state of Nevada, and he claimed marital tax deductions under my name." A collective gasp went up. "You filed as husband and wife on your taxes," the judge restated. "He filled it out that way," Nevaeh explained. "He said it was legal maneuvering. That Christine and the others did not count anymore. That I was the future." Christine's jaw clenched. Meri whispered, "That bastard!" Kody then shouted, "That is not what I said. She is twisting this." But Nevaeh did not flinch. "You said they were liabilities, that the show was a story, that I was to be the clean slate for what is next." The room was rocked, but the court wasn't done. Not yet. From the back of the gallery, a stylish woman stood up and made her way to the stand. Your Honor, if I may, at the request of the court, I've been asked to continue testifying. The judge dropped his gaze. And who are you, Lana Reyes, former senior producer with TLC for Sister Wives from 2011 to 2023? Christine's eyes widened. Robyn blinked again. Kody slumped into his chair as if his legs had failed him. The judge toyed with his mic. Continue. Lana advanced to the stand. I witnessed direct manipulation of finances while I was there. Kody would never let Robyn or Christine look at real royalty statements. The TLC deposits were instead routed into a Master Brown Holdings account that he managed. When we requested clarity in Season 16's tax scene, Kody told us to cut that footage. Christine looked down at the table. We never saw that money, not even once. Lana nodded. Because the money wasn't split, it was routed into a personal account. In 2021, Robyn's expenditure exceeded $380,000 for a single year. Janelle and Christine both had fewer than $9,000 in shared earnings. Nevaeh cut in softly. He said I was his business partner, that the rest didn't receive vision, that he needed one person who believed. Kody snapped again. You were a consultant. That is all you were, Christine stood. No, Kody, she was your future, we were your past. You made that clear. Lana continued. When the showrunners saw that there was a property registry in the name of Nevaeh, we were told to step back, that TLC would be at risk of being defamed if we aired it. The judge raised an eyebrow. And who ordered that? Executive producer Harold Deeks. But it was originating from Kody through Robyn. The silence that followed was thunderous, because for the first time, the fraud was greater than the family. It was institutional. The judge leaned back in his chair. This court now holds TLC to be an ethical consideration for willful failure to disclose financial wrongdoing. We will issue an investigative request to legal counsel for TLC for full episode transcripts, unaired footage, and finance reports regarding Brown family holdings. Robyn finally cracked. We didn't believe it would come this far, she cried. It was just supposed to protect the brand. The judge swiveled. Mrs. Brown, you protected a lie. And then, abruptly, he threw the punch that electrified every camera in that room. Effective immediately, all funds received from Coyote Pass, Brown Family LLC, and TLC's Sister Wives, related media are frozen pending forensic audit. Every last dollar. In the history of reality television, few had ever obliterated the line between show and genuine emotional meltdown, like what was happening in Courtroom 7B right now. What was initially a family squabble adorned with the sheen of polygamist branding had escalated into a multi-million-dollar scandal that implicated not only Kody Brown, but the network that made his name synonymous nationwide. And lastly, for the first time in trial, Christine Brown stood. Not as plaintiff, not as jilted former wife, but as a woman reclaiming her story before a nation. The judge waved his hand. Miss Brown, the court will allow you to reply personally to testimonies offered today. Adhere to facts, not feelings. Christine stepped forward, binder in front of her, but this time it was not trembling. It was steady, surgical. Your Honor, what we've seen today is the tail end of a system built on fantasy. What began as a family fell apart because one man refused to live in truth. But more importantly, what's been proven today is that this lie was sold, packaged, and protected by a corporation that profited off our trauma. A courtroom never acquiesces to applause, but at that time the audience didn't care about manners. Christine had just tested the network too. And then the moment that everyone had been waiting for, the video. A white envelope was handed to the bailiff, just 20 redacted footage. It was straight from Lana Reyes, the ex-TLC producer who had just testified. The court allowed it to be played. The video started in a production trailer. Kody, Robyn, and an unknown woman at the time, whom the gallery later recognized as Nevaeh. I said Christine can live in the casita, but she is never gonna know that we registered that land, Kody announced. Robyn, playing with a folder, grumbled. We have to keep this off the cameras. Just say the land is your name. That is sufficient. Nevaeh, barely 26 at the time, looked baffled. Shouldn't the wives know? Kody chuckled. They're not wives anymore. They're liabilities. Gasps. Some people stood agog. The video continued. Robyn went on. What matters is the brand, not the blood. The judge leaned forward. Stop. Please repeat that last statement. The technician rewound. What matters is the brand, not the blood. It was the words that set off what little moral ground was left for Robyn to stand on. Meri quietly cried in her chair. Janelle shook her head with rage. Christine, still and silent, just clicked her binder shut and looked over at the judge. We rest our case. But the judge wasn't done. One more thing before we recess, he said, tapping on his notes. It has come to the attention of this court that there is a secondary binder. Christine startled. Excuse me, a secondary binder, he repeated. One anonymously received by the court last week with private journal of CB, not for broadcast. It contains receipts, internal executive, to executive emails within TLC, and a personal diary that outlines manipulation, gaslighting, and monetary dishonesty spanning a decade. Attorney of Kody Rose, objection. That is personal business. Inadmissible. Undefined, the judge slammed his gavel. Undefined, that material will be taken into consideration in chambers. Undefined, if deemed relevant, it will be introduced. Undefined, Christine looked stunned. Meadows. Azon, said Jailhouse. I never gave that in. The judge nodded. Undefined. It wasn't yours uninitialized. It belonged to your daughter. The gallery gasped. Meadows. Azon again, Mykelti, Christine asked. Undefined. No, the judge said. Undefined, it was from Truly. Robyn nearly toppled over in her seat. Undefined, Meri gasped. Faye Demenchensky dropped his head into his hands. Undefined it, the judge continued. She marked up receipts, reference dates, and recorded things you all didn't know were being done behind closed doors. Undefined it, this binder turns everything on its head. Because the real story wasn't so much about the money. Dimensions, it was about the daughters. Dimensions, the next generation. Dimensions, and they watched, recorded, and now testified. Christine sat down, winded. She was just a kid, she panted. The judge answered. She is not anymore. Then, at recess in court, the camera went to black. But not before it captured Robyn whispering to Kody, "They're going to take everything from us, and we deserve it." The calm before the storm was agonizing. Reporters swarmed outside, microphones at the ready, like guns at the entrance to the courthouse. In the courtroom, it was more than full. There were TLC executives who were there under subpoena. Kody's legal team had multiplied, and Christine, daughters bunched around her, clutched the arm of her chair with the intensity of a mother ready to go into battle. Promptly at 10:05 a.m., the judge came out of chambers holding a binder, smaller than Christine's but stained with highlighter, handwritten notes, and pink page flags. This diary, he said, holding it aloft, was kept by Truly Brown. The court has examined it thoroughly and has ruled that it is admissible. We will now read relevant entries into the record. Kody stood up. You can't do this. She is a minor. The judge didn't bat an eye. She is now 17, and according to state law, she is entitled to testify in a civil proceeding regarding her immediate financial welfare. The gallery erupted into gasps. Christine was immobilized. Robyn began to silently cry, and then the clerk began to read aloud. The 12th of October 2021. Dad told Mom that Robyn needed more of the family fund because she has more kids that are significant to the show. I heard him tell her I was just a financial drain. I had to leave the room and pretend I did not cry. I told Mom my tummy hurt. The judge asked that the reading continue. It did, and what came next melted away Kody's last shred of public sympathy. The 7th of November 2022, I found receipts in the trash. Dad bought $4,700 worth of new furniture for Robyn's bedroom. On the same day, Mom said our electricity bill bounced. I took pictures of the receipts and emailed them to myself. I just want people to know that this happened one day. The 18th of February 2023, I asked Dad why Robyn got a new car and we couldn't afford my braces. He said, "It is television, darling. Some people have to play the part." I said, "What about my teeth?" He laughed. Christine could barely breathe. The entire gallery had turned into a wall of stunned silence. Even TLC's lawyers glanced at the floor. The clerk's voice continued. May 3, 2023. I listened to Dad on the phone with a woman named Nevaeh. He said, "When Coyote passes in our names, we can close the door on the past." I researched her. She owns land near Flagstaff. I think he is moving everything. Kody stood up. Eno, he bellowed. She is a child. You are letting a teenager ruin my life. The judge pounded his gavel forcefully. No, Mr. Brown. You did that on your own. Sit down. Truly, who had sat quietly with her sisters, lifted her tear-filled eyes but nodded silently. Christine whispered, "You were so brave, baby." Then the judge did something that surprised even the reporters in the overflow room. The court is going to enter Truly's entire journal into evidence. Additionally, we are issuing a temporary injunction freezing all of Mr. Kody Brown's other assets, including, but not limited to, assets held under other names, including Nevaeh James. Robyn gasped. "That is our entire life savings," she sobbed. The judge snapped. "That was the family's money. You just hid it well." But the most shocking part was when the judge addressed TLC's lawyers. "And now we call Harold Deeks, executive producer of Sister Wives, to the stand." The room ground to a halt. The man who helped build the reality television empire, the man who helped bury Christine's footage, who redirected profits, and who greenlighted Robyn's endless reshoots, was now about to take the stand. Kody sank in his seat. Christine sat upright, Truly wiped away her tears and sat forward, peaceful and calm. Deeks was sworn in. "Are you aware of the nature of your testimony?" the judge inquired. Deeks replied, "I am, and I am happy to tell the truth." The judge started. "Did you knowingly hold back footage showing financial manipulation between Kody Brown and his fifth wife?" Deeks looked downcast. "Yes, because Kody threatened to sue us for invasion of privacy, and TLC didn't want to lose the show." The courtroom shook. Christine's eyes welled with a new source of pain, vindicated pain. Kody was trembling, Robyn whispered. "He said they'd never know." But they did, all of it. For a court fight that had begun with whispers of hidden wealth and a fifth wife who was a mystery, no one could have predicted that it would end here, in the country's living rooms, on live television, with millions of people hanging on every word the judge was about to utter. Reporters stood shoulder to shoulder, phones raised streaming the drama live, and across the country Sister Wives fans, people who once idolized the family, now watched their illusions burn in real time. Kody Brown sat like a man waiting to be executed, his hands folded, his lips quivering. Robyn looked straight ahead, her face set in porcelain horror. Christine was composed, resolute. Standing beside her were Janelle, Meri, Truly, and now, officially revealed, two more witnesses from Nevaeh's own life, a notary and a realtor who both swore they had witnessed Kody signing documents, making her co-owner of Coyote Pass. The judge stood up. "In over 3 decades on the bench, I have seen a great many families fall apart. I have seen greed, betrayal, manipulation, and sorrow. But what I've seen in this courtroom, through video, testimony, and documents, isn't merely a family meltdown. It is a deliberate crafting of fraud veiled in religion and cloaked in celebrity. And today, we bring it to an end." The ruling by the judge was historic, not just in scale, but in tone. Because he didn't just deliver a verdict, he delivered judgment, moral, legal, financial, all at once. "Kody Brown, this court finds you guilty of civil fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and concealing joint assets. You are hereby ordered to return $2.1 million to the family fund, transfer all remaining interest in Coyote Pass, and vacate all properties that were purchased under misrepresented ownership." Gasps echoed like thunder through the room. Robyn stood to speak, uninvited. "Your Honor, I had no idea. I trusted him. I thought we were doing what was best for the family, please. Don't take it all." The judge looked at her with burning calm. "Miss Brown, you didn't just know, you directed. Various witness statements, your own voice on tapes, and tax returns prove you orchestrated concealment. Therefore, you are hereby directed to make restitution in the amount of $875,000 and vacate any jointly owned properties, including the home at 407 Aspen Ridge, within 30 days. Christine closed her eyes as the courtroom spun from the final blow. Janelle's hand tightened over hers. "We did it," she whispered. Meri cried softly, not in grief, but freedom. Years of betrayal and gaslighting, and she was finally believed, and truly. She was a pillar of strength, an iron teenager. In her hand was a letter, The judge turned to her. "Truly, the court recognizes your bravery. Is there anything you would like to say before we're done?" She nodded. Stepping forward, she opened her letter and read. "To my dad, you told us family came before money, but you lied. You had favorites. You remained silent when you ought to have defended, and you let someone else replace your own daughters without so much as notice. I am not angry anymore. I am disappointed, because I grew up thinking that I mattered. But now I know who really fought for me, and it wasn't you. It was Mom. It was Aunt Janelle. It was even Meri. And one day, I'll tell your grandchildren the truth, that we fought for something more, and we won." The courtroom wept. Christine wept quietly into a tissue. Even TLC crew members, who had been stoic after years of filming, were now openly weeping. Kody sat still, defeated, broken, unmasked. There was nothing left to say. No spin, no 11th, whore PR gimmick. He had been unmasked, not by the court, but by his own daughter. The judge's gavel fell one final time. Court is adjourned. And with that, the Brown Empire officially fell. In the days that followed, TLC released a terse statement. "Sister Wives is not in production. We are fully complying with court ordered asset disclosures." Fans lost their minds online. The footage in the courtroom was the most shared video in the show's history. And Christine, she signed a book deal with a major publisher for a memoir titled "The Binder: How I Took Back Everything He Tried to Steal." As for Kody, he dropped off the grid. Nevaeh went bankrupt. Robyn sold her jewelry on eBay, and that property in Coyote Pass. It was deeded to a trust, co-owned by Christine, Janelle, Meri, and the children. There is a monument there now, not to the death of a failed marriage, but to the power of women who chose truth over tradition. And there it was, the secret. They tried to keep concealed, the wife they tried to muzzle, the daughter who exposed them all to light. This was not a judgment, this was reckoning, and the courtroom had become their final season.